Hi, this is Raj from MR Sportscars. In this video I'm going to be driving a 997 Gen 2 3.6 Carrera Coupe. It's a PDK and it's finished in a lovely colour, Aqua Blue metallic. It has the optional sunroof, which I'll just open now. I'm just in this car driving to the premises to, well, first of all clean it, then photograph it, and then I will also be doing a viewing on a lovely 981 Boxster we've got in stock as well. And I just thought I'd put the camera on and film the drive across the premises, because I do find these cars the perfect all year round, all weather sports cars, especially the 997 Gen 2s. And the 3.6 Carrera 2s, obviously rear wheel drive, I think are actually, and I've said it before, are great sort of perfectly balanced, perfectly poised 911s of any era. They are just over 1.4 tons, and how they drive is still extremely addictive behind the wheel. Whether it's a manual or a PDK, the PDK is that little bit easier to drive all year round, in all honesty. When you've got traffic, when you've got busy roads, lots of manoeuvring to do in the dark and things, it's a nice setup. This has got the multifunction steering wheel, which also isn't the most dynamic steering wheel, because you've got the sport design steering wheel, but for creature comforts and things, so the fact that it has buttons for the stereo, you can pick up and hang up calls, I think make it for an everyday car, not like a track car or just a fast B-road blast car. This steering wheel's perfect because it's still got a lovely weight to it. It's got the lovely leather across it as well. And yeah, in the UK, all of these cars come with extended leather, so you get leather across the dash, leather centre armrest, leather steering wheel, leather PDK shifter or manual gearbox, leather doors, leather rear seats, leather all across the back, basically extended leather everywhere, and then a black Alcantara. The sunroof actually is the most rare option, I think, on this car. I mean, it's got the black stopwatch for the Sport Chrono, but that was specially ordered to match the standard black dials in this car. The 3.6 Carreras have black dials. It's the S models that have the silver dials, so that's been really nice that it was ordered in conjunction so that all the dials are black with white numbers and notches. That all is very in keeping. This car's also got the updated CarPlay stereo. This one's made by Kenwood, so it works with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay with the digital radio as well. The antenna's on the mirror, just where on the window, just where I've mounted the camera. It's got heated seats. It's actually got the 12-way electric seats, and there will be a video of this car walking around talking about the options, so I won't go into that too much. Basically, a nicely spec one of these cars. Doesn't have to have Sport Chrono, but this one does. It has PASM, but it doesn't have to have PASM either. I would say don't think that PASM is a must. It also has Bose, but again, Sound Package Plus is really decent as well. It's decent enough, and with an updated head unit, everything's bang up to date in terms of you get the latest mapping from whoever you use. I use Waze personally, so when you port it through from your phone to the head unit, there used to be in the past an issue with mobile phone signal dropping out when you're on a drive somewhere. Now I think only the remotest parts of the UK you have that issue, so the head units tend to not have sat-nav built in them, and they rely on mobile phone data and your phone to sort of power a sat-nav system of some kind. And nowadays I think that's perfectly acceptable. Maybe 5 years ago that was an issue, but I did always wonder why in the past all the cars that had the updated head units from Pioneer, Kenwood, whatever, you would sort of need the integrated sat-nav. Now I don't think that's a necessity at all. Now this car drives beautifully. It's so well balanced. Rear wheel drive with slightly slippery conditions. You don't ever feel like it's gonna slip away from you at the back ends. I don't think you ever get the I never get the traction control to flash up on a driving on the road, and I'm on quite narrow roads here, as you've just seen that van, the postman just flashed past, and the width of this car I think is perfect for our roads. It doesn't feel intimidating at the front end in terms of its width compared to the 991s. I love 991s, but I find that they're more of a sort of larger next class up size, and they're more suited to GT, so like Grand Touring, rather than this sort of like narrow road driving that I'm doing now, which if you're, I mean, it's hard to really say what is better suited to everyone in the UK. I mean, for me, and where I'm based, which is rural Hertfordshire, I think a 997 Gen 2 is better suited to the roads. Now that might be completely different if you were living somewhere with more wide open roads, more dual carriageways. This is all single lane, pretty much 1.5 width, some of it, and it's all still national speed limit, so you need to have your wits about you if you're driving a bit quicker, and you need to have good brakes. And even the 3.6 basic brakes are perfectly reasonable at coming to a stop, even by today's standards. And I tell people this stat that I've learned from Porsche on the experience days, that whatever speed one of their Porsches is quoted as their acceleration time, they have to, it's a stipulation by Porsche, so say they have to brake in half the amount of time back to zero. So say if the 0 to 60 on this car is 4.5, which it is, just under 4.5 with PDK and Sport Chrono Package Plus, it's got 345 horsepower, I think. This car is 4.5 seconds to 60. It should do 60 to 0 in just over 2 seconds. I won't do it now, obviously, because I've got stuff in the car. But the brakes are supposed to be capable of around half the time to decelerate from a particular speed as it takes to accelerate. So this car will do, I believe, 0 to 100 in just over 10 seconds. So it should be able to do 100 to 0 in around 5, which I find incredible. I mean, this car was made 2009, so it's 13 years old. Actually, no, this was made 2010, so it's 12 years old. It's done 80,000 miles. Doesn't feel old. Doesn't feel sort of rattling and shaking apart. I mean, you would hear on the video if there was like horrendous knocking or rattling from any of the interior. It still smells fresh in here. The leathers are in lovely condition. These cars age phenomenally unless there's an issue with them. So say if someone's taken a bit of the trim off, like a door card, and they haven't put it back on properly with the right clips, or the clips have snapped but they've still just shoved it on, then you will get rattles and things, but generally they don't really rattle. The only rattle you can probably hear is my keychain, which has a little torch on it. Just a great ownership prospect, and people do ring me up saying, would you run one of these every day? Would you park it outside as well, on the street or on your driveway? And I said absolutely yes, because they are very, very reliable. If you use them regularly, actually they're happier, I think. They don't have issues with batteries going flat in 2 to 3 weeks. If you're using them sort of every few days, or even just at the weekends, you use them twice at the weekends or something every weekend. But really, they are great every day, every use cars. The front boots are obviously nice and big, and I just think they sound fantastic. They sound pure Porsche. The 3.6 I find is actually slightly more tuneful than the larger 3.8 in the S models, the 4S and the 2S. And when you're looking at how the prices of these have gone up, the Carreras now represent even better value, I think, because they haven't gone up quite as much as the 2S's in terms of from where they started to where they are now. So they are a bit of a, I wouldn't say bargain, but they definitely represent better value, because performance-wise, yes, it is slightly slower. Yes, it's got slightly smaller brakes, but a 2S versus a non-S like this one, there's not a huge amount in it. And if you found a really nice one that's spec'd with PASM and things like this one is, and chrono, and it has Bose, really there's not much difference in the things you'll actually sort of interact with on a day-to-day basis. Yes, at 10/10 you're going to feel the difference in how it accelerates and responds, but this is a really decent place to be, and definitely not a basic feeling 911 compared to an S or even a 991. I think a lot of people would be happy owning and driving this car as their everyday all-weather sports car. And yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share on this drive. Is these represent, I still think they represent great value and well worth looking into if you've got the budget for them, and they should hold their value extremely well. And just find a good Porsche Specialist to look after it over the years. You will have to spend a bit of money here and there on recommissioning parts such as brake pipes, coolant pipe, not on this car particularly, I'm just saying in general. There will be bits coming to the end of their life each year or every 2 years when you have them looked at, so just prepare yourself for that. But they shouldn't be huge costs, because my specialists are very, very helpful in trying to keep the costs down by sourcing parts directly from the original suppliers who supply Porsche, so you get parts a lot cheaper than if you went into a Porsche main dealership. Things like discs and pads, you can go to Sebro, Techstar, Brembo, who all in conjunction together, all the different parts are made by those suppliers generally. You can get air conditioning condensers from non-Porsche, Bilstein shocks rather than from Porsche, who basically relabel Bilsteins, and you'll save at least 50% of the price on parts alone. Then you save on the labour as well. So yeah, just find, if anything, as well as going to look out for great cars, go and sound out some specialists near to you and see which one you get the best vibe from on whether they'll be able to look after your car. Obviously it's helpful if you go there with a car and say, look, I want to use you for my repairs and keeping this car in tip-top condition mechanically. They might be a bit more helpful with you rather than turning up with, I'm thinking of buying a Porsche. But you never know, it might be worth just having a quick chat with them on the phone, or just popping in and saying, look, I'm thinking of getting a Porsche. First of all, do you know of one? Because quite often these specialists will look after hundreds, if not thousands, of Porsche 911s, Caymans and Boxsters. They'll have them on their books for a minimum of 2-year maintenance. So they might be well aware of owners that they've just serviced their cars on that are saying, oh, I'm thinking about selling, so can you have an extra look to make sure everything's okay, so that I can sell it with knowing hand on heart there's nothing specific that needs doing on the car. So sound out your specialists if you want to find a car that's not on the market. And yeah, I wish you all the best if you are thinking about buying one of these cars. I don't think you'll regret owning one. I don't think you'll regret buying one. I don't think it will be a huge drain on your money over the long term. And yeah, if you have any questions about these models, 997 Gen 2s, please don't hesitate to comment below. Please do like my video and please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.